All right, let's talk a little bit about building powerful brand stories and brand storytelling. Your brand lives and influences customers as part of an intrinsic relationship that shapes the social relationship with a brand. That's why powerful brand storytelling matters to the success of a brand in a highly competitive marketplace. Now, I'm a big believer in brand storytelling, but only in a way that actually helps to sell the brand. Just telling stories about the brand that add no value and do not make the brand any more interesting or any more compelling is probably not the best thing to do. But adding storytelling to your marketing helps humanize your brand. It connects authenticity with your brand, and it helps and it attaches the customers to the brand like a friend or someone that they know. And so you need to start, of course, with a unique brand narrative. The brand value is linked with its story. The story of not so much the benefits of the company, but how the company got established, how it got started, why it got started, how it got started, and what are the traditions associated with the brand and how they evolved over time. And so every brand needs to have an original story that makes it unique among brands. Think of a brand narrative as your company's strategic statements that pulls from a creative conversation and community with your audience. But find the uniqueness. If you're going to be using storytelling, find out what the story is behind your brand. Pull quotes, relevant data, old pictures or new pictures of your brand and its relationship to its customers and the community in which it operates are all powerful elements. Here's an interesting example. So I play golf with some friends who belong to the oldest golf course in the state of Indiana, and it's called Woodstock Country Club, and it's located in downtown Indianapolis. The very first time I went out to play there, I noticed their logo for their country club. All country clubs have logos. I play out of Dragon Ridge Country Club, and Dragon Ridge Country Club is named for the area in which the country club is built. It's built in the Dragon Ridge area. Now you say, Dragon Ridge, what's that? What's all that all about? Well, it turns out that there is a rock outcropping in this particular canyon that looks like the back of a sleeping dragon. And that's how Dragon Ridge got its name. And of course, there are a number of pictures of that. But most people don't, even people who live at Dragon Ridge, don't know the Dragon Ridge story of why it's called Dragon Ridge. Kind of an interesting story. So I'm at Woodstock Country Club, and I noticed their logo. And their logo, you'll notice, is a pine tree in a container, 3 chevrons, but then uniquely a tree trunk stump. So I asked my friends who are members at the Woodstock Country Club, what's that all about? Their response was they had no idea. I said, how can you have a tree trunk stump as part of your logo and not know the story that goes along with it? Because there has to be an absolutely fascinating story that goes along with that tree trunk. Otherwise, why would it be in the logo? Unfortunately, they don't know the story, and the story has never been written in any of the historic information about the Woodstock Country Club. I just think it's just sort of interesting. Second, know your target audience. Classic marketing truths never die. You always need to know your target audience when you are producing a communication. That's more than just demographics, although that's part of the occasion. You need to know who they are. What are they all about? What makes them do the things that they do? What is their personality? So you need to know about your target audience. Third, data does play a supporting role. Don't make statements, tell stories. But within a brand storytelling, data can play a role. Interpret data with the originality to make stories more believable, to add support to the stories. But don't make it about the data. The data simply adds to the story, adds detail, depth, texture, and dimension to the stories. This element evokes a wider range of emotions and reactions from your audience, from humor to rational thought. The more deeply you engage the audience, the more that they remember the story. As you might recall, you remember the story about Paul Harvey and the flying helicopter. Campaigns serve roles to audience stories. Many marketing campaigns include themes, but it's more than a plug-and-play strategy. Powerful brand storytelling organizes campaigns so that they serve particular roles to target audiences. Firms must on their target audience and thoroughly imagine focus on their target audience and thoroughly imagine their stories. They must ask where the particular campaign fits into the audience story. Where does the campaign fit into the brand? How does it help the brand's image evolve? Always make it personal. This is an obvious one, of course. You can list amenities of a beautiful hotel or anything, but the storytelling is supposed to make it more personal. You know, they use the example here of the slogan, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." Well, that's an interesting slogan, but most people who have visited Vegas have a story to tell about it. And the ads that we have for "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas" are all little vignettes that sort of tell a story about how that campaign slogan, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas," comes to life for individual visitors. Imagine engaging your audience with at least 5% with at least a 5% value boost with a personal story or photo. And I don't know if that really is the case, but pictures and facts and figures always help create the story. If you go up to a place in Brooklyn, one of the most famous restaurants in Brooklyn called Junior's Cheesecake, which is located in downtown Brooklyn, they have great pictures of Junior's and Junior's logo, and they got a great story about how Junior started and all these sorts of things. It's all part of the story of creating the image and the texture and the feel and the personality of the brand. Make it personal. The Business of Telling Stories and How to Do It by Courtney Chuang. If you're in business of marketing and selling products, you're also in the business of telling stories. If you have a great product, it's great, but having a compelling story puts the company into motion. As marketers and sellers, we put the product story to work every single day. We use it to forge connections and prospects. I think about car companies like Tesla, which have a value of higher than 3 or 4 other major car companies that produce many, many, many more cars than Tesla. How is it that the Tesla brand is worth so much? Well, there's sort of a compelling story about its founder and the company itself. Studies have shown that stories are powerful. They have a profound impact on our brain. They engage us emotionally. They help build trust and inspire us to take action with a brand. In business to business, buyers are 50% more likely to purchase when they see the personal value of a product. And of course, the idea is that brand stories don't always, but can help increase that personal value. 5 steps for crafting an effective product story. First, ditch the list of features and the features matrix. Don't talk about features. Let's talk about benefits. Second, Put your story, your product story into context. It's important that people understand the product story, that they understand the context. Our parents' small grocery store was started in during the Depression when people didn't have enough money, and my parents put together a grocery store where they could offer people credit so that they didn't go hungry every day. Okay, the product story needs to be in a context. We can do that with pictures, we can do that with word stories, and we can do that with images. Understand why your customers hire your product, or in fact buy your product. It's even more important to understand why your customers like your product and why they are loyal to it. A good product story weaves together what your product does, why your product matters, and creates a reason for customers to love your product. Repeat your product story often. If you have a great product story, it's important that everybody knows it. Many companies have a little product story and it's hidden someplace on their website, and you never hear about it. Companies aren't very good at telling their product stories because they're focused on making products, selling products, and sometimes they forget to incorporate the product stories into that process. Number 5, measure, learn, and iterate. That is what? It's all about testing. Write stories, see which stories resonate. Over the years, the city of Las Vegas and has come up with a number of marketing campaigns. Of course, the one that we're familiar with is the one that happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But that's only one of about 20 that I have seen over my last 30 years in Las Vegas. 19 of which really never stuck, and the stories around it never stuck. But one did. And when you find the one that works, ride that story, ride that brand image, ride that slogan. Finally, crafting a product story is hard work. It's not easy to come up with a product story, and and many times it takes many iterations for it to come to life. It takes time to move from the past to the present to the future. Our best advice: take the time to get to know your market, get to know your customers, and get to know your product. Then you have the ability to tie those things together to tell compelling, engaging stories about your brand.